So Esha, thank you so much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership.
Thanks, Dr. Nick, for the opportunity and for having me.
You're most welcome, and it's great to have you on the show. And before we walk into the future, Esha, can you please tell us, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Chatsworth, which is an Indian community in Durban, now KwaZulu-Natal. And I think that was certainly the base for my roots in terms of who I am today. And a lot of the life lessons that I've learned, it all started way back when in Chatsworth for me.
Right. And can you tell us, what was your dream career when you grew up?
So when I was in school, it was an interesting one. I always wanted to be an astronaut. And, we actually went to the extent of writing to NASA in the US at the time. I was a very driven scholar, as you would say, and found their email address, and actually not an email address, actually found their mail address because there was no email at that point in time. And I went to the post office and got a letter sent to them to ask them, how do I apply to join their trainee program once I finish school? And the sad part of it is that, I did get a letter turning me down because I wasn't an American citizen at the time. But the good news was that they also sent a NASA package to me. And I think I still have a few of the memorabilia that they shared with me. And I had to go and collect it at the post office. So it was quite an experience. Needless to say, I didn't become an astronaut, but I've been trying to reach for the stars in other ways in the world of logistics. So that was my dream career for at least a good few years in my schooling life.
And maybe can you share what was your, when dreaming of becoming an astronaut, what inspired you, or maybe who inspired you?
So a big part of my inspiration came from my parents. And, as I mentioned, growing up in a traditional Indian community, at that stage, opportunities for growth and development kind of outside of your community were very limited. And, my parents had a very different mindset, although, they were, growing up in those communities with certain constraints and confines, the way in which they thought was much broader. And they were very focused on empowering all of their children and giving us all of the opportunity, irrespective of whether we were male or female or our age. And, they always pushed us, in a subtle way to achieve our best. And they, in our small community, they actually removed the constraints that may have been posed by us by external circumstances. So, whenever there was an opportunity, to put our hands up for school events or to participate in local communities, to actually give back, that was a big part of the upbringing value system, giving back and not just taking from the communities. And reaching for the stars, I mean, that's the one very strong message that my parents always instilled in us, and to always give it our best and not just look at the confines of the immediate communities that you're in and look beyond that. So they were a big part of my inspiration because they supported me and they believed in me, and they sacrificed a lot to give me and my siblings the opportunity for growth and development. So I owe a lot to them in terms of my career journey and where I am in life today.
Now, Esha, today you are the head of corporate affairs and sustainability at DP World for sub-Saharan Africa. You have a very impressive career, and you're also a young global leader. It's a World Economic Forum. Looking back over your career, would you say there was maybe a turning point or a number of turning points where things could have gone different and you took a decision to take your career on a certain path?
Firstly, thank you. You make it sound a lot more glamorous than it really is. But I think sometimes reflecting on one's career journey is just as important in terms of not where we're coming from, but also where we're going. So thank you for that. So I think the inflection point in my career was really when I moved into investor relations. So, post finishing matric at that stage, chemical engineering, or engineering rather, and women in engineering was a big theme for South Africa. And I decided to go the engineering route, completed 2 years on a bursary at the time, and then decided that, while I was progressing well on that path, that, being in a plant or on a mine was not who I was from a personality perspective. And I actually wanted more in terms of how I wanted to see my career evolve over the coming years. So I paused my degree and I decided to move more into the BA route. At that time, writing and communication was also a very big passion and strength of mine, starting from my school days. So I thought, well, with the half an engineering degree, as well as a very strong communication background, let me start the BA, but also look into journalism. So I was a community journalist for a year after, which was very exciting. And I think it helped me grow a lot in my career in terms of throwing me in the deep end and really getting to the heart of community stories, hard news, etc. And also built my resilience as I was starting my work journey while studying at the same time. And then about a year down the line, I actually got a call from a very large mining listed company that was looking for somebody to come in and play the role of investor relations officer. And at that stage, I had no finance background. I had no idea what investor relations was, but I decided this is a fantastic opportunity for me to learn and grow. And the rest, they say, is history. So thankfully, I was given the job and the opportunity. And from there on, I really started to grow my career for large listed companies in the investor relations field, a very niche space. You can't study investor relations in South Africa particularly. And it's really a combination of skills that you need to understand, communication being core because you're dealing a lot with the investment community and your stakeholder base, but also you needed to have a very strong financial background. Like I said, I wasn't a CA. Many investor relations professionals are CAs, but lucky for me, I married a CA. So I got that training coming through very strongly from my husband, but also on the ground training. And I really started to entrench myself as an investor relations professional in South Africa over the years. And for me, I think that was the big career turning point. Because if you asked me 20 years ago, do I know what investor relations was? My answer would be absolutely not.
Right. And Esha, can you tell us what is driving you today? What is giving you the energy to go the extra mile?
So two things. I think the first thing is to continue to be motivated and driven and personal growth. I think there's just so much space to continue to grow as the world is changing. And we'll talk about that shortly. And then the second thing is, how can I broaden my perspective to create impact, not just within my organization, through my skill set, my leadership, etc., but also how can I use my role to create and increase impact externally. I think that there's just so much need around us, through our communities, and through the countries in which we operate. And I think each and every one of us that are fortunate enough to play a role in leadership can really impact the development with very small steps. We don't have to always go out there and take big decisive actions or make big investments. But I think as individuals, we certainly have a responsibility to play broader than just the leadership roles we have in business. So those are my two driving factors. Primarily. And then the third one is also to leave a lasting legacy and a future that my young kids can be proud of. Again, I think all of us make that difference, as I said earlier. And I think what's also very exciting for me is the role that I've been in, starting off with investor relations that I spoke about, has just so excitingly evolved in the corporate space over the last few years. And I think, going from investor relations in the mining space, working for some of the large corporates, and then evolving into the stakeholder and communication space, and today very strongly focused on sustainability. which I think is a critical enabler to any business strategy today, is for us to look more broadly into the triple bottom line and sustainability being a big focus, to actually be playing a part in that area for my business, to leave that lasting legacy as a company, as an individual, I think is a very special space for me to be in. And there's always learnings, right? I mean, it continues to evolve. We're all moving towards climate change and combating climate change. We're all looking at how we could play our part in the decarbonization strategy. And it's also challenging for me because there's, different solutions that are coming to the table locally and globally that we need to consider. There's the CSI and community impact angle. And lastly, also, how do I play my part as a female leader in an incredible business like DP World to empower and create real opportunities for other females coming through the business. So I know I've said a lot, but I think, these are certainly the motivational factors for me, which is more than just, title and money. It's really about impact and being able to wake up tomorrow and reflect and feel proud of the small actions I've managed to take through the different opportunities I've been given, and also pass that on to other colleagues and beyond our business.
Thank you. Now, Esha, looking into the future, and I know it's a big question, but what does the future of leadership mean to you?
So I think the first thing is, I think future leaders have to be agile and adaptable. I think that we're in a world that's changing so quickly in terms of global trends, macroeconomic challenges. If anything, I think COVID taught us that, we could never be too prepared for what the world is going to throw at us. So I think we need to start thinking more broadly beyond just our areas of responsibility. I think leadership is so much broader than the areas that we have a title of for or get remunerated about, and we have to be quite agile and quick in terms of how we think. And along with agility comes innovation. We really need to start looking at the bigger picture and not being too short-term focused only, and starting to look at the lens of how can we innovate as leaders to make sure that our business remains relevant. Not just for ourselves in terms of financial sustainability and financial relevance, but also how do we keep ahead of the game and continue to be relevant competitively for our stakeholders. Then I also think leadership is about empathy. It's about being able to put ourselves into the shoes of our colleagues and our teams and be able to motivate them while also empowering them at the same time. Leadership is not about being a one-man band. It's not about managing people every day or micromanaging people. It's about walking the journey together with our people through more empathy. And I think with empathy comes natural progression of how do we empower better, how do we communicate better and create opportunities for others. So in a nutshell, agility, innovation, and empathy.
And Esha, what have you learned from your own leadership journey that you consider most important for building future leaders? In other words, what is it we have to do more to develop future leaders and to encourage future leaders?
I think it's a very deliberate decision that you have to take as a leader to make the time to share, to collaborate more, and to spend the time focusing on the development of not just yourself, but your teams. I think once you're in a position of leadership, you need to understand your level of influence, but you also need to understand how you use that level of influence to empower others. And we can so easily get caught up in our day-to-day tasks and, ticking all the right boxes of how to drive forward a successful business, that not many of us take the time sometimes to actually look at our teams and look at some of the talent and look at how do we invest our time in supporting them with their journeys. And I always say that if we all come together working towards a common cause, we all win. And, success becomes, a lot easier to obtain when we do it as a team. So I think, we need to be deliberate about our teams and supporting them. We also need to put our hands up to mentor more. and to share some of our experiences with others. And it does take time. But if we want to see a new cohort of leaders coming through, we also need to give the time and the energy and the support to the future generation of leaders. It doesn't end with us. The only way you can leave a legacy, either as an individual or as a company, is to make sure that the next set of leaders that come through the ranks after you are stronger, more impactful set of leaders than we have today.
Now, Esha, these are challenging times. What is your advice for future leaders in terms of challenges? What are some of the biggest challenges they should expect to encounter and hopefully overcome in their career?
So I think the first one is, and I spoke about it earlier, is leaders future leaders certainly need to have a plan. You need to have a sense of direction in terms of where you would like to go, but equally so, put your hand up for the opportunities. You may not always be prepared at every juncture of that journey, but as I mentioned up front, you need to be agile and you need to adapt, but put your hand up for those opportunities. If you wait for the perfect opportunity that's in your space to come by, you may lose some really fantastic golden nuggets that could be stepping stones for your career. So always be on the lookout for opportunities and put your hand up. And if you're not heard the first time, put two hands up and take those wholeheartedly. I think the second thing is, I think people want to move up the ranks very quickly in today's day and age, and it's fantastic to be ambitious, but I think work ethic is something that one needs to be very deliberate about. Not just taking the opportunity, but having a very solid work ethic where you are constantly in the frame of mind of wanting to learn, wanting to listen to others. I think that's a critical skill for all leaders, to be able to listen more and not just speak all the time and only give your view and put your view forward. You need to put in some hard work and dedication. And lastly, though, at the same time, try to maintain that work-life balance. I think maintaining a very strong, healthy mental health is just as critical for success in the workplace as it is outside of the workplace. And if you're in a good state of mental health, you can only flourish both as a leader in your field as well as beyond that. So certainly work ethic, focus on some kind of work-life balance, continue and be open to learning opportunities, listen, and certainly collaborate where you can.
Now, Esha, if you were to design a curriculum for future leaders, what is maybe one or two key skills that you would like to factor in and maybe even teach?
I think this is a biased view, Dr. Nick, but communication. So often we believe that for you to communicate well, you have to be a communication expert, and that's a myth. For you to be an effective collaborative leader, communication is a non-negotiable. And I don't necessarily mean, in the way you write or speaking perfect English, but it's really about, the basic tools of bringing your teams together and being able to communicate openly and in an engaging and a transparent and authentic fashion. So when I mean communicate, there's various tools that we can use to be more effective as leaders, but we always need to bear in mind that as leaders, communication is everyone's responsibility and not just the responsibility of the communication teams. And I think more can be done. And once you communicate more and more effectively with your colleagues, with your teams, and with your external stakeholders, I think it really creates a lot of trust, and it makes you an authentic leader over time. So that would be the big focus area for me in terms of the 101 for leadership and the starting point, and something that I'd also be passionate about supporting on in future.
Great, and definitely much needed. Now, Esha, as a mentor to many future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and that leader took your advice to heart?
So without mentioning names, it was back when I was still in the mining space. And yeah, actually had a member of my team, very young, very ambitious, that used to engage with me quite frequently, wanted to learn more at the time about the investor relations and particularly the communication space. It didn't come without its challenges because she was very ambitious, extremely bright and talented. But as part of the mentorship process, it was also about agreeing upfront mutual goals. And for me to be able to support them in terms of how to pace out their career journey and where those gaps were for them to still build and grow before pushing too quickly ahead in terms of progress in one's career. And, looking back a few years later, I did leave mining. But this particular individual has really soared in the corporate world, not in the investor relations space particularly, but more broadly in the communication space, and really has an extremely bright career ahead of her. And I think just watching and following her journey has been so fulfilling for me, because when you see talent of this caliber, and you see persistence. I think that was one of the strongest characteristics she had. She was really persistent in terms of, learning and understanding, but also, listening to the advice and following a very focused path to get her to where she is. And I think that for me has really been, something exciting to watch. And I know for her, it's not the end. It's only the beginning. She's still got many years on her side, and really excited to continue to watch the rest of her journey going forward. And I'm not sure if she knows that I am watching her, but I am. I've been tracking the story for many years, and this is where you say thank goodness for social media, because we don't always have the opportunity to keep in contact with these individuals as frequently as we would like to. But social media really supports us in following a lot of these career journeys.
Thank you. And Esha, looking back over your own leadership career, are there any role models of leadership that you have encountered and maybe worked with that you would recommend future leaders should learn from?
So this is it's a very interesting question, because I think, every leader that I have had the opportunity to work with, and I've been very privileged to work with some of the most credible, authentic CEOs, in a South African context and beyond. And I think each one of them has really supported me through my journey. And each and every one of them has taught me something along the way that I have taken on in terms of my leadership style and journey. But if I have to mention, some, recent role models, if you would like, I think the first one would, for me is Professor Iris Bonet. She's a professor at Harvard Kennedy School. And I've had the pleasure and honor of meeting her not too long ago at Harvard. She is incredible in terms of the support she provides on the diversity and inclusion agenda. And that's not an easy one, to be able to communicate and share thought leadership nuggets on. And I think she's really done a good job in walking the talk. And I think, that's what makes successful leaders. They don't just share theory and they don't just share case studies with you, but they also provide practical tools and guidance and walk the talk in terms of what you can do and how you can take away some of these key learnings. And I feel, she's really done that well for me personally. And she's always made herself available in the great work she's been doing across the globe, and also now bringing it back to the African context, which I think is quite powerful in some of the engagements I've had with her. The other visionary leader that I'm very honored to know and work with from a distance is the CEO, Group CEO and Chairman of DP World, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, a truly visionary leader for what he's done in creating the powerhouse DP World that it is today, with about 10% of global trade going through DP World's port and infrastructure network, and building this business together with his senior leadership team to employing over 100,000 people today, and also contributing to the economy of Dubai in the process. It takes a very special visionary leader to achieve what he's done. And I think one of the best qualities that he demonstrates that we can all learn from is humility. Humility and authenticity. Again, very honored to be part of the DP World family and be able to get the support and guidance of our group CEO and chairman and the rest of the leadership team.
Great. Now, Esha, how can our listeners connect with you and where can they follow you?
So LinkedIn, I think, is the usual channel for engagement. So we post quite a lot of our thought leadership and initiatives that we're very excited about sharing as a business, and also in some instances with my take on some of my areas of responsibility within DP World. So on my LinkedIn page, very welcome to connect with me via email, esha.mansingh@dpworld.com, and try to make myself as accessible as possible to connect with other thought leaders or anyone that wants to connect, particularly in the sustainability, communication, investor relations space. So very excited to support the network and to grow together.
Now, Esha, last but not least, what is your advice for the millions of learners out there who are looking to finish school, to start a career? What are maybe one or two success principles that they should keep in mind?
So the first principle would be to consider your passion. And to choose a career that you feel that you can make a particular difference in, that you're passionate about. They always say that your workplace is where you spend probably most of your time. So you need to be happy with the career that you choose, because you're going to wake up for many days of your life in that particular role, and of course you'll grow in the role and you'll evolve over time. But make sure that the career path you choose is something that you share a sense of passion for, and that you actually want to make a difference in and grow in, both personally as well as professionally. Then certainly, the hard work and putting in the hours to constantly learn and keep on top of global trends. The world has become so small with social media now, but equally so, it also gives you the opportunity to continue to consume information and knowledge that's beyond just the realms of your degree or your university, etc. Just go onto LinkedIn and you'll see numerous thought leadership papers that are being published. AI, another fantastic topic for us to familiarize ourselves with. So, always engage with content to broaden your knowledge. It's beyond that university degree that you're studying towards. And I think if you put in the hours and you broaden your perspective, I think your success in your professional sphere will become a lot broader.
Thank you, Esha. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your leadership journey, and reminding us that when you reach for the stars, literally, you can go very far.
Absolutely. And, it's not a one-day game. And I think the journey of leadership is exactly that. It's a journey. It's not a destination. And the best part of it is it's always about the company. So don't forget that it's not just about you as a leader, but it's also about your teams. It's about your family that supports you every step of the way. And it's about your colleagues that you can continue to learn and network with. Thank you.
So true. Thank you very much.